What's up, guys? We are Past Pop Culture. My name is Ricky with my co-host here, Mr. Fenn.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Blue Beetle. That's pretty much going to be our main topic. I, right off the bat, want to say it will go into spoilers.
Yep.
So if you're not into spoilers or or you haven't seen the movie yet or anything, it's going to get more involved. So if you want some context, go watch it. Right off the bat, I give it a good 7.5 out of 10. Oh. I think gut feeling, I give it a good 7.5.
Okay.
Probably more 7, like a 7.2. I like kind of in that area where it's like, depending on how I'm feeling, I'd give it a 7 or 7.5. You know, it probably would take like a second watch for me to really like, okay, do I like this movie a lot or do I like this movie like, You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's high for your standards though.
But 7 is good. 7 is like you should watch it.
Yeah.
Whenever I say a 7, it's like, okay, it's worth your time. You know, go catch a movie. Go catch the movie, I should say. So I think it is worth your time. What is your like from the hip gut reaction to the movie, to Blue Beetle?
I give it like 8.5.
Okay.
I think it's just because it kind of harps on a lot of stuff that's like related to us, like family wise and all that.
Definitely, if you're not Hispanic or particularly Mexican, I guess
you might not like it as much. I think
you will. Yeah, like my favorite scene Ryan's favorite scene when they got the vaporru and he was like smelling it and he's like, you know, like exactly. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
it's still worth the watch though if you're not.
But it's still worth the watch, but especially like if you're Mexican, you'll get a lot.
Yeah.
You'll get a few more kicks out of it. I think like it's like there's certain things that clearly they did some research, right? Or there's like a lot of like, you know, I mean, of course the actors themselves were probably contributing to it, but clearly, they listened a little bit because there's a few things in there like, if like you're not from the culture, you wouldn't really get it, or and there's even stuff like deeper, kind of more callbacks and stuff like that I don't really like know, but I know that some other like, you know, Hispanics were able to like catch on, and I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even catch that. Okay. I didn't even know that, you know. So, but I think overall, good movie. Mm-hmm. Go watch. I did give a spoiler for that one little scene, but it's not integral to the story. No, it's not really that much, but definitely go watch it. Come back, play the rest. That's kind of like your spoiler warning right now. We're going to go into detail. All right. So hopefully, all right. You had your chance. Yeah. I was like, okay. So to kind of get more into it. Yeah. So I give it a good 7.5. Like I said, you give it kind of like an 8. My thing was like, okay, in a weird way, I didn't think this movie was going to like be a dumpster fire. I was worried about it, but as it got closer, I was like, okay, it's probably going to be decent.
Right.
I didn't expect it to be like, wow, or anything like that. And I think if you're going in and you're like, oh, this is going to be like, you know, the next best, you know, DC or
Peak
just
cinema.
superhero movie. Yeah, it's not that. You're asking for too much. Does it do its job well? Does it execute fairly well? Yeah, I would say so. Mm-hmm. For me, the pacing did feel kind of like interesting, to say the least, because it did feel like the movie was kind of like always running, if that made sense.
Oh, okay. I can see that.
Well, I felt like, I felt like we were just slamming from one thing into the next thing into the next thing. Mm. And I think it was because they wanted to tackle so much in the movie.
Yeah.
And so that made it kind of hard, where I felt like a lot of the movie too, this one wasn't, maybe this is just my perspective, it wasn't as action based. Did you get that? Did you get that feeling that it wasn't as much action based? Because there was like, of course, there's the one whole like main battle scene and that whole, you know, hey, you know, saving everybody. But I felt like not that it was missing more action. I think it was a good amount of action, but I thought, they cut back the action for a lot more character progression, to involve the family a lot more, right? To kind of set up this little world, because I don't know where this falls into the main canon.
It doesn't. So I think this is not even part of James Gunn's new thing. So this is still like quote unquote the Snyderverse stuff. So
Okay.
This movie kind of means nothing. I hate to say that, but I mean, he might be with James Gunn, but it's not.
I mean, they probably will still use the same actor and the same background story and everything, but they may just change things around.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that was my main thing. Was like, okay, because this clearly was pretty detached from. I mean, maybe because of Flashpoint or whatever, and that's why everything. Because it was more like more futuristic. It didn't everything.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, how do I word it? It was still in the modern day, but especially when they're showing the city, I was like, whoa, that's like a little bit like more farther in the future, if that makes sense. I don't remember if them specifically saying a date the movie is set in, from the top of my head. Mm-hmm. So it did feel like, oh, hey, this is kind of like a little different than everything else we've been setting up. So then I'm like, okay, because I could have sworn you mentioned this may be part of James Gunn's kind of plan. So then everything's kind of set in a little bit more of a...
It's up in the air.
Close future, but just a little bit more technological progression. So, you're probably like in 2040 or whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't actually... No, because they didn't even say anything about a date, except when they were talking about like the dad, but that was in the like past. So
yeah.
I think it might be, I guess, like present, but it's just like a city.
Present day, but a little bit...
Yeah.
More advanced. Yeah, and that's where it was. And it did seem because they have the dad. And of course, they're setting it up to maybe bring back the original Blue Beetle, which would be cool. But again, like you were saying, it's kind of like, is this all just dead in the water? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's kind of why it's, I don't know. I gave it like an 8 because, again, it's like the whole question mark of James Gunn. And it's like, yeah, this is a cool character, and like he did like a really good job with Blue Beetle, but and then they showed like at the very very end, like major spoiler, but the dad's alive. But it's like, why even do that if this isn't part of the James Gunn universe?
Yeah, and I'm not sure they just added it in because everybody's expecting some sort of teaser at the end, or this is what was already filmed. They're just throwing it in because
that could be true.
Yeah. I really don't know what their plan was going into this movie, how it's going to fit in or if it's going to fit in. So it is hard for me to like rate it higher or want to like really elevate the movie because it's like, well, how is this going to fit in? I don't think it's going to be particularly difficult if they want to keep the character, if they want to build on him a bit more. How much money did the movie make?
So
did it do good?
It did really bad. I just googled it before, so it's only made 81 million so far.
What was the budget?
It didn't say, but this is one of the worst money made DC movie since Wonder Woman 1984.
Well, that's really disappointing then.
But
because I had a lot of heart.
Well, see, that's what I kind of don't understand is everyone who watches it likes it, even critics. So Warner Brothers is already coming out with excuses and saying like, well, it's the hurricane's fault. Because Sunday, pretty much everything was closed because of the quote unquote hurricane. And then they had like I think the article said that most of the showings was in SoCal. So they did lose quite a lot of revenue because the hurricane closed everything. So.
Yeah, and then by then it's like, okay, school started up for me.
They kind of missed it, yeah. So
yeah,
it's unfortunately a flop, which is
I don't know. It's sad.
It is. That's why I kind of like. Well, we do like the movie. Everyone likes the movie, but it's like we can't really want more because now it's a flop, like worse than Wonder Woman 1984 and worse than Shazam and on par with The Flash. So it's like, that's it. He's gone.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. I mean, how do I word it? I think it's just people don't trust DC, right? Because the last few movies just flopped. People are pretty tired of superhero movies. And it's unfortunate because while I wouldn't say Blue Beetle was necessarily like, super refreshing and redefined the genre, I think it added a new aspect. to it. It was very family focused,
Exactly.
and they
had culture.
Yeah, it focused on the culture. It focused on. I think I just really enjoyed how the characters interacted a lot more than maybe like in Shazam. It felt.
It was more organic, I think.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more organic.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because you have the young actors trying to get along and act in the same way as like the older actors that play them, right? And then their chemistry, and that's really hard to all mold together. Maybe that's why Shazam felt a little like loose in that aspect,
weird,
right? In the family aspect. But I think in this one it worked out really well because I mean it was a little like cringe here and there, to be honest, right? Some of the stuff they're doing. But like
funny,
you could it was funny and you could forgive it, right? And I think especially because the kind of energy that like George Lopez brought, I think he really helped the movie.
Did he really help it, or did he make the movie worse?
I think he helped it. I think overall, I know that some people didn't probably like his performance and stuff like that because he was kind of being
George Lopez,
right? And so it was a little bit like not overacting, I want to say, but a little bit more like embellishment on his reactions and everything, right? Like fainting or whatever like that, right? Like it did kind of channel that George Lopez, like comedy energy. But I think it worked out better overall because I think it seemed like, okay, everyone else could like work around that energy and it wasn't like, I think he wasn't a detriment. I have no idea what the online space is saying
it's like
about
50-50. They're saying like he was really good. He carried it. Some people are saying it's like, oh, it's just like the George Lopez show.
Yeah, and that's why
they put too much emphasis on him, is what like a lot of people are saying too.
Yeah, I think I think unfortunately the movie did kind of like expect him to kind of carry a little bit more, and I think he was able to carry it, right? But I think there was a little bit of like, oh, okay, George Lopez, do your funny thing in the movie. And then that's where I kind of say like the cringe kind of comes out because it's like, well, it's just not that kind of movie, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's not a sitcom, but I think he did carry the movie very well. I mean, oh man, the guy from the main actor, I forgot his name, but I think he did a very good job as Jaime, but he did a very good job at Blue Beetle portraying the character, right? I'm not super into the Blue Beetle comic book, so I don't really know what storyline this all is, or it's following, or if it's completely original or whatever in terms of the story, right? How well. All I really have to go off is like a lot of the cartoons I grew up with and the TV show. It's just he's not a character that I really like read. But I think the portrayal was perfectly fine, right, in the way that he normally gets portrayed. I think the family was pretty good. It was a little like, how do I word it? The sister was a little annoying, right? But I think that was the point, right?
All sisters are annoying. Just kidding, guys.
And then so your sister's gonna listen to this. Yeah. But yeah, I think overall it was a good family dynamic because it felt a little bit more organic, right? When the sister was kind of being annoying, like I kind of felt that because it's like, well, it's siblings, right? Like siblings being annoying to each other, weird, right? Kind of getting on each other. Humor, yeah, and so I think overall, you have the mom and the grandma and then the dad, right? Like I think they all had their role to play, and I think it was good. But yeah, I mean, right? Like George Lopez, right? Like somebody always in a Hispanic family has like an uncle that lives with them or something, right? Like it happened. Yeah, that's and so
that's what's funny.
I think I was like, oh, it was kind of cool. Like, okay, a little interesting, commentary being like, oh, well, I'm a failure and this and that. Yeah. And so, but I think it was a good overall positive story. I think it mainly was kind of story driven rather than action driven, which I don't mind. Right. I think the CGI was perfectly serviceable because
it was a lot better than
Yeah, like it was a lot better than the Flash. To say that, I think it was perfectly serviceable. It was not like, oh, we're getting like plastic looking characters, and which is fine, I guess. But you know, it was actually like, hey, there wasn't really like a scene that I can really remember that will pop up and be like, oh yeah, the CGI was absolutely terrible in that scene. So it was pretty clean. The fights were pretty good.
Yep.
I can't really say much on the main villain. He kind of felt a little hollow until the very end, right?
Yeah.
Well, in terms of the main bad guy that he fights, right? But it wasn't really like, oh, he was like a villain, right? He was just kind of more a victim of the real villain, right? Where she was going around, oh, I'm going to take the scarab and do evil things, right? Like, it's a very, you know, it is a paint by color. Yeah, it's a paint by, you know, number kind of thing. Like, okay, you know, yeah, the villain who wants to do villain things for money reasons or for villainous reasons, right? Like, you kind of go through this whole thing like, hey, he loses somebody close to him. That is the main motivation, right? Like, we've gone through this a lot of times, you know, but I think it did it well overall. I think it's kind of like, okay, going through the checklist, it does this well, it does that well, it does blah, 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 blah. And so my main thing kind of to bring it back is, no, this isn't going to compete with Marvel. I don't think it has the ability to compete with Marvel. Yeah. I think Marvel's just kind of collapsing in on itself as well. I think it's like trying to like climb a rock that's already crumbling. You know, it's like it's doesn't matter because they're both going to come crashing down.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what was that? Secret Invasion just flopped.
Got a
right. It was one of the worst rated ones too. It just seems like every time a superhero movie or anything superhero related comes out, it's we're tired. This is boring. You can't even actually try anymore. And I think that's the hard part. Is that while I think I like Blue Beetle because like, hey, they tried for more than 2 minutes to get this thing going. Yeah. There were some parts where they got a little lazy. They were expecting George Lopez to probably carry a little bit more than what he actually should have. But everyone kind of pulled their own weight in terms of, you know, the acting and the emotional pull. The story, of course, paint by number, but they at least try to do something right. I can appreciate that. Like I just like Secret Invasion, I just didn't get past the third episode. I really just didn't care to ever come back and watch it. To be personally honest,
I watched 2 episodes. So.
Oh really? Well, yeah. Usually you last longer than me. You'll go and.
Ricky, I promise you, when I saw episode 1, I'm like, I don't know what the heck is happening. Sure, I'll watch episode 2. I'm like, this show is just boring.
Yeah, like there's no drive in these movies anymore. So I think that's why I'm willing to rate Blue Beetle a little bit better than what it probably is. Because, one, it kind of like shows off, you know, my culture. And 2, it kind of at least tried. Attention. Yeah, I didn't feel bored. I didn't feel bored watching the movie. I didn't feel like, oh, this movie's getting like way too long. I actually felt the movie was going really fast. I was like, oh shoot, we're doing this? Now we're doing this? Oh shoot. It felt like we had to like run through so much, right? So, and sometimes I prefer that over just like, oh shoot, like this movie's 2.5 hours. Oh shoot, you know, I got another hour of this, you know, like it's like, oh, you know, it's kind of lame. So I rather prefer like, oh shoot, you know, we're kind of running through things a little quick rather than things be too slow. Rather than have things a little too quick. But I think that's the reason why I'm willing to rate this one a little bit higher than what I would normally do, right? Like if Marvel kind of came up with something, I don't know if I would probably rate it as high, to be honest. I will admit the bias, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm just glad that something from DC is actually like good, enough to be like viewable, if that makes sense. Like, hey.
Yeah, so did you prefer this over The Flash?
I think I would like to say yeah. Even though The Flash was cool.
I will say yes, yeah.
And The Flash was cool in concept. Michael Keaton carried that movie too.
But not enough to.
But not enough to be like, I would watch. I don't know, I'd probably watch Blue Beetle a second time. I don't know if I'd watch Flash a second time, if that makes sense.
I would not. I enjoyed the Flash a second time.
I think the problem with The Flash is that there's a way superior version of consuming that storyline, and that's the animated movie. So, like, there's really no point to go watch the movie if I want that storyline.
Exactly. Yep.
And like half of the movie was like, oh, Michael Keaton's in it. I want to see what he does.
Yep.
And so like, it's kind of like that, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm glad Blue Beetle did a good movie, right? In a few years, it'll probably be like, oh, this movie's kind of underrated, right?
Yep.
When all this kind of like junk kind of just passes and people are not so bored, I guess, of the superhero genre.
I'm just happy I liked a superhero movie.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm just, how do I word it? It's not a gut punch to Marvel. They're not gonna have to watch their back like, oh shoot, DC's coming up hard, and it's definitely James Gunn still has a lot to produce, make, put out, work for the attention of the average viewer and the hardcores, right? Like he has a lot of work ahead of him to get anything done. Mm-hmm. This, I think, I don't know how much James Gunn had his fingers in it or whatever.
None.
But for that, if this could at least be like, oh, this is the baseline. This is as bad as it'll get. I'll enjoy, if this is like everything else is just up from here.
Yeah.
I'll watch the DC movies.
Well, you're forgetting about Aquaman 2.
Oh shoot!
Later this year, so the bar could be higher or lower, actually.
Yeah.
So, I think this, like you just said, this movie should be the standard of James Gunn's new movies. Like it's not trash, but it's not like peak cinema. It's just a good, fun 2-hour movie. Like you enjoyed it. You don't feel like you wasted your money.
Yeah, I didn't feel like even when because I took my parents to go see it, right? So it was like, oh, this is enjoyable. They enjoyed it. They liked it, right? There was a certain level of relatability to it for them too, which helped. But they enjoyed it. It was a good movie.
But do you think that's why it was a good movie though? Because we could relate to it, like so.
Yeah, there's a certain level of inner. Not like inside jokes or anything, but like just kind of like, oh, that's kind of funny. They made a reference to that, right?
Yeah.
And there's a certain, yeah, or like, oh, that happens all the time here. Yeah. So like, I think that kind of helps. But I think overall it's just a good movie too. Even though we do have a little bias when it comes to that. But my main concern is like, okay, they're gonna see this and like, oh, Blue Beetle didn't do well, so we're gonna scrap this kind of content, right? Yeah. Like, because unfortunately the movie had committed the sin of having heart, and it didn't do very well in the box office. So that's the hard part, where it's like anything that has a little heart in it, but it's like, oh, it didn't do as well. Oh well, we gotta scrap it. What I'm hoping for is that they do some sort of Justice League movie or reboot or whatever, and he's like at least like a side character or something that will appear in part of like some fight scene or something, and he'll be and then like an Injustice movie or something. That'd be nicely like, or like even like he's a little bit on the older side to be like a Teen Titan or something like that, but maybe he can kind of train them or something. I don't know. Yeah, well,
you know who he is, right? The main, like the actor.
Well, in terms of in canon, because he's 23, 24 in the game. I'm sorry, in the movie, right? Yeah. Teen Titan characters, kind of like in that anywhere between like 14 to kind of like 19 range. Like that's kind of like when they portray the Teen Titans, right? Like they have Nightwing, who's in his early 20s, kind of training them. So maybe Blue Beetle can kind of serve that kind of role, and that's what I mean. The actor himself is not. I mean, he's like my age, so it's not terribly old, or maybe old, I don't know, but point being, I think they can still utilize the character, right?
They should.
Yeah, they should utilize the character. I'm saying they can utilize the character. At least that's my hope. They still utilize the character. But there's really
stupid if they don't, to be honest.
Yeah, there's really no hope. But I was gonna just say that I was like, there's really no hope in all the stuff that's coming out, because Aquaman 2 can be a banger. I don't know. It could it could be bad. I mean, it could be good. The first one was good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my particular like favorite or anything like that, but I enjoyed it. It's just, I think the hard part is like, we're just so exhausted from the superhero genre. I think that's in general, like, this is the exhaustion episode. This was like a one little, like, hey, this is kind of nice to enjoy right here, this, movie, but I don't really see it. I don't know how James Gunn's going to bring it back, right? Like, I
He
don't
has to
know.
do something miraculous.
I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was phenomenal, right? I really enjoyed that. That was like, hey, this is the superhero movies, the superhero storylines we want to see, right? Now, is Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers is really dumb. They're very bad at making the right decisions, making the right calls. James Gunn seems to be able to take the reins because it's James Gunn and some other guy or whatever, right? Like,
I think he helped make Aquaman. I can't really remember. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I mean, like every time I say, like, we're just gonna have to see because really we're not getting anything to like what 2025.
For James Gunn, next year is gonna be the Creature Commandos, the animated show. So it's gonna start next year, technically, because he said, remember that all animation is part of the universe of the like real life.
Oh, that's right. Because I was thinking because that Superman movie is not going to come out till like 2025 or something.
No, is it 20? No, I think it's 25. You could be right. Because I know for a fact the animated show is next year.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm glad the animation is canon because they usually don't like to canonize the animations or it's the animated movies or shows or anything like that, which I think James Gunn at least realizes that, hey, our animation department is a lot stronger than the movie department.
Exactly.
Let's just buff that up, right? Because
like we do have to keep that like little bit of hope because I do like that, like you said, like he's having the animated matter, but he's also having the voice actors also portray the
live action and the.
So it's like there is that consistency. So
and that's I appreciate that at least. So we'll see. I mean, James Gunn's gonna have to do some magic. That's all I'm gonna have to say. This movie was good. We'll see how Aquaman does, but after that, it's just gonna be kind of. Well, like, I don't know if he's going to be radio silent. I don't know.
Is Marvel making anything? I think Loki, right? So
Marvel's. I mean, they're going to be pushing out, their wares. There are going to be. Yeah, they have like Loki and they have some other stuff. There's the Marvels coming out, I think, right?
Oh, that's.
Yeah. I just really haven't really been keeping track of it. I've been just watching them as they come out because it's just like. Okay, another superhero movie, right? Like after I think I want to say after No Way Home, kind of like that. Gone. Yeah, it's like to me okay, that was as good as it got. I got my cool little childhood wrapped up in a nice little bow, and I like to kind of walk away from it and be like, all right, like I said, everything can suck after this, right? Like I just wanted this movie to be enjoyable, right? Like I wanted to be like, oh yeah, look at that, and just Paul got the screen, and just kind of just pointing, look at that, the Wojak, just
I don't know. I love superhero movies, but we're in a time like this controversy. But I think normal movies or anything that's not superhero are 10 times better than superhero movies.
Yeah, I mean, the Barbie movie, Oppenheimer, I haven't seen them yet, but they did very well. I haven't seen, dude. I've been busy. So I made time to go watch Blue Beetle. I had to make time to go watch it.
Good.
So unfortunately, my dollar is going to go to waste either way because they're just probably going to scrap the character. So any support that I gave it didn't matter. But point being is I showed up to support the movie. So, but
there's still, Ricky.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's it is what it is. But
oh my gosh, that's.
But
sad.
Yeah, there's still good movies being made, especially just smaller budget or kind of more just things that are not superhero movies. They're still enjoyable. Yeah. I hope that there is kind of a stray away, I guess, from incorporating the superhero genre or a lot of the tropes into regular cinema, right? Like a lot of the Fast and Furious movies now, right? They're just superhero movies, right? Like a lot of those kind of. Like I enjoy it when like John Wick was not a superhero movie, right?
It's different, yeah.
It was a little different. It had maybe some themes that cross-pollinated, right? But It's not a superhero movie, right? At its core, yeah. And I enjoy that a lot more now. I think because there's that saturation, and it seems like a lot of the studios are like, "Hey, you know what? We've kind of oversaturated the superhero, and the superhero market. Like, hey, let's pull back. Let's kind of change things up a little bit." And that, unfortunately, like I think like Mattel, they're just like, "Oh, you guys like the Barbie movie? We're just gonna make our own Mattel toy universe, kind of thing." And they're gonna,
which is like, huh?
And I think they kind of missed the point there, but hopefully other studios kind of like take note and be like, "Hey, you know what? Let's just do these one-offs. They don't have to have a multiverse or a greater like
purpose or just
universal just make something cool, man. Just like John Wick, it's just a guy going around shooting things, right? Because his dog got killed. Not to be reductionary on it, but it's enjoyable. It's good because everything in it makes it really good. Some people don't like John Wick. I think that's insane that you don't enjoy all that action.
Check them, please. What?
Yeah, but I do. I'm a man of simple pleasures, I guess. I see boom boom on screen, and that makes me happy, right? Yeah. So hopefully things get better in terms of movies, in terms of superhero movies specifically. But yes, this is probably a one-off kind of thing, and we're just gonna have to
stay tuned for
deal with it. Yeah, just I don't know, like just deal with it, man. There's like it's like, man, I'll be so happy they do bring back Blue Beetle. I just want, what I want? I want a good Green Lantern movie. That's what I want.
Well,
I want a good Green Lantern movie.
Green Lantern something with James Gunn.
We're supposed to, because we're supposed to get that Green Lantern like buddy cop show movie kind of thing or whatever it was, and we never got it. We never got our Cyborg movie. We never got nothing. So we'll see what DC does. We'll see what James Gunn has in store for us. And yeah, like we're kind of like, we're getting to that new era now. We just got to see if it's a good era or a bad era. Like we just got to really hold out hope, I think. Oh, wait, what? Anyways, we enjoyed today's episode. We're not talking about Star Wars. Oh my goodness. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's episode, you enjoyed listening to us rambling, we very much appreciate if you're on YouTube, leave a like and subscribe, drop a comment. Did you like Blue Beetle? Did you not? Did you think George Lopez carried? Did you not? Did you think he kind of was bad in the movie, right? I want to know what's everyone's like opinion on it. So very much appreciate if you made it this far to do all those things. If you want to hang out with us some more, we do stream. We stream twitch.tv/PassThePopCulture. We kind of changing up a little bit. We're doing Monday, Wednesday, Fridays again, kind of going back to that old schedule, same time, like 2:00, right? So the time's not changing, just the days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you want to know when we do go live, check us out, social medias, at Past Pop Culture, pretty much on everything, or Instagram or Twitter. We let you guys know when we go live. So yeah, we're going to be switching to playing some Call of Duty, probably some Warzone, having some fun. We haven't played in like a week. I want to say 2 weeks. Yeah. So we'll see if we get pissed off or not. But you guys will know when you hang out with us live there. So thanks for listening, guys.
Bye.